Michelle, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. So, I would love for you to tell us about yourself and your business.
Yeah, so I'm Michelle. I am a branding and website designer, and I work with mums growing service-based businesses. I am really passionate about empowering other women who are trying to build their own business, their own sort of future, and find a way to sort of fit that in around their families. So, yeah, I love working with women on all sorts of different projects. I recently just launched some website template kits. I'm, creating another service that's about to be launched soon as well. So it's been a growth few months for me.
Oh, that's so exciting. And I know websites can be very overwhelming to figure out how to build them and all the behind the scenes stuff. So, if you could tell us what are the benefits of having a website for your podcast?
Yes. So as a very avid podcast listener, I like to take sort of the user's perspective first. And as a listener, I really love being able to dig in a little bit deeper when I've listened to something great. When I've heard someone talk about, I listen to a lot of business podcasts. So if they've talked about like a software that I thought sounded really cool and I want to go check it out, being able to send people directly to your website to go then get your affiliate link is a super smart business move to be able to actually monetize your podcast beyond anything you're promoting directly. It's also fantastic for your SEO, your search engine optimization, to be able to have that home base for your podcast and be able to have all of that amazing content that you're creating live on your website out in the world where people can search for it and people can find you for those keywords. So it is a really, really wonderful way to sort of double dip the energy you're already spending creating that podcast. Having that live also on your website is amazingly helpful, not only for me as a listener to be able to go find all the cool stuff you're sharing, but also for you as a business owner to just get in front of more people and therefore hopefully improve sort of the point of your podcast, which is your business or whatever you're trying to sort of monetize out of that.
Yes, exactly. The whole point is to lead people to you so they can work with you. So,
Hopefully.
yeah. So most people already have their own website for their business. So should they just add their podcast to their current website, or should they create a new domain with the name of their podcast? What do
Ooh,
you suggest?
fun question. So it super depends. I think if your podcast is really, really linked to the business you already have. Say it even shares the name of your business. You're talking exactly about what your business also speaks about. You're serving exactly the same clients. Having that be on your same website makes perfect sense. And you're going to be, as I said before, like doubling down on all that amazing search engine optimization to get people to that website with your podcast content. However, if your podcast is kind of serving a different niche, if it's really distinct from your business, or if it's trying to sort of funnel people to something else, that's where it can make sense to be a separate entity. I see a lot of people kind of create a little website for their podcast when, in sort of sad fact, that website isn't actually serving the business as a whole. So I think most people, as we're starting out, we're creating podcasts to serve our businesses. It makes sense for that to then be part of sort of the business hub as a whole, which is your website. Really only in those edge cases where it's serving kind of a different need or a different sort of niche in your business marketing strategy, then having a separate website could make sense.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And I have mine on my website, so that's all good because it leads right to my business. Yes. So there are a lot of hosts for websites. Do you
Mm,
have one that you recommend the most or you think works the best?
yeah. So, really fun question. I think a lot of web designers have kind of their pet favorites in terms of sort of platforms and website builders. But personally, I like to try and take a sort of tech agnostic stance when recommending the right platform for people. In many ways, they're all different tools and they serve different purposes. So I think it's about picking the right tool for you and your business and where you're trying to build that business towards. So personally, I build out websites using Squarespace because I work with service providers who are looking to build out a system for themselves, pretty much as solopreneurs. Maybe there's like a VA that comes in, but that they can maintain themselves. There's not really a need for all the bells and whistles. They just want something simple that works, that doesn't require a bunch of maintenance. So because of those reasons, I love Squarespace because that's who I serve. But for other people, if they're hosting courses, if they have, really complicated sales funnels, it's not the right platform for them, and I would send them elsewhere. So depending on all the bits and pieces of your business and what you're trying to achieve, it kind of depends which platform makes sense. So my best answer is it depends. But ask your friendly neighborhood web designer and we'll point you in the right direction.
Yes. So if we're looking to create our first website, what are the basic things that you suggest we have on it to begin with?
Oof, okay. So if we are creating a website, we want to make sure we have kind of the main, very basic customer journey that you want to send people through, from not knowing who you are to actually working with you, booking whatever you have to offer, or buying something actually on that site. So when we think about the sort of cleanest, simplest version of that, we have a homepage. That's where people land when they first come to your website. We do want some kind of sales page that talks about that specific offer. And then we want at least some kind of contact page, somewhere where people can take that action, whether it's booking a call, filling out a form, actually purchasing something if you have something for sale, sort of a digital product or a course, for example. And then I'll sort of add on to that an about page. An about page is hugely important, particularly for small businesses, because we are buying from people at that stage, and getting to know who is behind that business is really important. It's, I think, often the second or third most clicked page on people's websites. So it is a really important one to add. And then the sort of asterisk at the end is make sure you have your legal pages. It's a legal requirement as a owner of a website to be legally compliant. So I'm not a lawyer, but really good idea to make sure that you have those legal pages sorted out too. So it's like the bare minimum.
Yes, definitely. Want to make sure everything's all legal and good.
Above board.
Consult a lawyer first. So is there anything else you want us to know about websites and...
I mean, I could go on for days about websites, but I think my best advice has always been to keep it simple. Keep your website easy to use, really clear and obvious how people can move through it, so that it's, not leaving anyone guessing. Ultimately, we want people to kind of forget they're using a website. So anything that sort of pops up, draws them away, leads them away from that really core customer journey, isn't really serving your business, because ultimately we want people to use that website to work with you. So I really recommend trying to step into the shoes of that person you want to work with you and use your website from that perspective. And the simplest version is often the best. So pare it back.
Yes, that's what I do. Whenever I think about it, I'm like, I hate those super long sales pages. I'm like, just get to the point. Like, you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom to get to the point.
Or at least give me a bunch of buttons to get to whatever I want at the end.
Yes, simple is best. People don't have a lot of time. They're busy. They want to know what they want to know and move on.
Exactly.
So next, I have a few little fun questions I just like to ask every guest. So what is your favorite mindset book?
Oof, that's hard. I feel like it took me a while to get okay with the term mindset, but I think there's a fun one that I just read called Own Your Weird.
I haven't heard that one.
It's by a really cool guy who actually he's got like a membership I'm part of, but he's also created the platform Teachery. And he talks about how he's built his business kind of leaning into the things that make him unique and thinking outside the box. It's really cool. I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend the audio book. It's a fun listen.
I'll have to put that on my list. I haven't heard of that one. So what is your favorite podcast?
As like a listen, I really love This American Life. That's what got me into listening to podcasts in the first place. But as a business podcast, I'm really into Serve Scale Store. I love Brandy Mel's. I'm like just a big fan, and I had the pleasure of being on that podcast semi recently, and that was just like the biggest thrill. So she's definitely one of my favorites.
Oh, that's awesome. I know I listen to too many. Like if I had to narrow it down, I don't know.
I have at least like 100 on my playlist.
Yes.
It's terrible.
We'll never run out.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for being on today. And please let our listeners know how they can connect with you, especially if they want to start their website for their podcast or just a website in general for their business.
Yeah, so obviously my website is my favorite place for people to connect with me.
That
That's
makes
at
sense.
michellepontvert.com. And then I'm on Instagram at Michelle Pontvert, and on Facebook. I'm pretty much everywhere, but I really like obviously heading to my website, and then Instagram is where I try and hang out the most.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much. This was a
Oh,
really,
thank you so much. This is really fun.
yes, it was a good conversation, gave us a lot to think about. And yeah, just keep it simple, I think is the message. Don't overthink it.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much and enjoy your day.
Thank you. You're welcome. You too.